Hello friends, Lee here from TableTop Bong. Thanks for joining me. In this video, I thought we could hang out, have a fun sesh, and I'm going to share with you a hidden opportunity that I am seeing in the way that the world is changing and how we are communicating with one another. There is a really cool hidden possibility in this situation that we're all living right now that I think if we talk about this and we start to put this into practice, man, we're all going to feel a whole lot better. I know this is certainly something that I've been working with lately, and I just wanted to talk about this for a few minutes. Let me kind of give you a bit of a background of where I'm going with this. A few days ago, I was in a conversation about how different things are today, about how different conversations work, how things were back in the day compared to now, right? I mean, these are conversations that are pretty normal for, as you age, you look back at how things were. I'm not going to tell you what I could do with a quarter back in the day, by the way. So don't worry about that. I'm not going to tell you how I could get on a flight and, do all this with a quarter and come home and have change. That's not what's happening. But back in the day, there was basic rules of engagement when it came to social engagement, right? So basically things like don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, and don't talk about money. That was three things that everybody knew that was the foundation of social engagement. Okay, so what did that leave? So if you didn't talk about money, that means you didn't really talk too much about your job. You could only really talk about the interactions you had with somebody that you like or don't like at your workplace. So, okay, that's cool, right? You don't talk about religion, so you're being very careful. So when you're not into politics, right? Like you have to leave that alone too. All that was to be just talked about in your home. Okay, so what did that do? Why was that rule in place? I've been, really observing this kind of stuff. As you know, guys, I'm an observer of things. So I look at this and I think about it and I'm like, okay, well, what that did is that created a very hospitable environment for most people. There was very little conflict between people because you really didn't talk about anything that mattered. You didn't talk about the things that were happening in life that you were deeply passionate about. Typically, your finances are, at times at least, very, very relevant, I suppose, right? At different times in your life when you're starting out and you want to try and save money and considering buying a home and all of these things that are all these milestones in life, they're all tied to your finances. And if you can't talk about that, man, that takes a lot of things out, right? It removes a lot of milestones. So the conversations were a bit sterile, right? They just kind of stayed on the surface, but it was very pleasant. So as time evolves and marches on, now we talk about everything, like everything. We talk about politics, we talk about religion, we talk about money constantly. Those three things that were not part of the conversation are now, part of almost every conversation. Except we need to rip a bowl. Holy smokes, what am I doing? I'm gonna flip on my venti here. I've been enjoying the venti today. I like sipping on it at about 195 degrees. I find that, I can sip on it at that temperature and I can sort of control my buzz. So, for daytime vaping, it's quite nice. It's a good option for sure. And it's a nice mix it up. So we're going to just go ahead and enjoy that right now. Okay, so here's what I see though, because I'm lucky enough to have maybe been, an observer of that other time way back in the day. And I'm also an observer of today. So I get to see both sides and I get to see what's working and what's not working. And I see what didn't work back then. I see that there was zero intimacy in conversations back in the day. But I see now it's all intimacy, right? So it's a really weird thing. But what ends up happening now, this is where the real opportunity comes in. Okay, so what ends up happening as we communicate more and more and we're allowing our feelings to be shared, among other people instead of keeping it all bottled up inside, we're talking about things, we're sharing things. We have a better understanding of each other today than we ever have before. Now, that's a pretty interesting thing, right? We really can understand what other people are feeling very deeply and very intimately. And even to the point where there are people who will go online and they'll create all kinds of, things for people to read that are super deeply intimate and personal, and they just leave it anonymous so that the information can be there and it doesn't have to be attached to anybody. It's not about the person, it's about the information. So we have access to all this unbelievable, deeply intimate stuff about one another. Okay, so if this is true, here's my question, because I've observed this. People have said in this time of connection, we're more disconnected than ever, yet we're having more intimate conversations than ever. Okay, this is the question, right? So what is going on? What is the opportunity? Every time you hear something like that, what does it tell me? It doesn't tell me that there's a limitation. It tells me there's a beautiful opportunity to look for, and when you find it, oh, you can build all kinds of love into the world just simply by having solved that little problem. In this movement of truly understanding our feelings and communicating our feelings, we're being hit with a specific message to share. Share what you feel. Share what you feel. Share what you feel. What you feel is very important. Beautiful message, right? Absolutely beautiful message. But we're missing something. Where's the message of caring about what others are feeling too? Stopping with your feels just for a minute to see their feels. So here's something that I have been playing around with, and it's become a really, really interesting thing to do. And I'm learning a lot about myself and a lot about people from this one little exercise I want to share. I've talked to you guys about taking a moment to step out of yourself and to imagine things from someone else's perspective, right? And we've talked about that a great number of times. And it is, as we know, it is a tremendously powerful tool of connection. When you stop, you go outside of yourself, you become the other person for a minute, and you imagine that situation from their perspective. This is such a beautiful thing to do for another human being. But I put a little twist on this that makes it really, really interesting. And I have learned so much about myself from doing this little thing. So here's how it works, okay? I'm going to load up another bowl because this is some deep shit we're about to do here for a second. All right, so is maybe a stoner thing? Not sure. We'll find out. You can tell me what you think in the end, all right? So here's what I did. I imagined not just becoming the other person for a minute, okay? But first what I did is I was in a situation where I really didn't understand what somebody was thinking or doing. Like I was just, we've all hit those scenarios where we go, what? Whoops. What is that person thinking? What is that person doing? What is going on with them? And we're baffled, right? Let's face it, this is not an uncommon thing in the world now. And this is why this is such a great opportunity. So I took a moment to observe myself. I stopped, and instead of projecting my thoughts outward toward that thing that I was confused by, I stopped. And I zoomed out for a second and I looked at myself and the judgment that I was actually going through inside myself. Okay, I was on autopilot, not thinking about it, not being nasty in any stretch. And, very seldom do I come up with just a pure nasty thought about something, especially something that doesn't have, a major effect. It was just something I didn't understand. So I observed myself in this place of a little bit of judgment about it because I didn't understand it. So then I thought, okay, Lee, just do what you do. Imagine it from that other perspective. And so I did that. I imagined, okay, I just stopped. I just checked out of myself for a minute, right? I put myself in a little compartment here, and then I moved my thoughts, and I imagined being that person that I was confused by. But organically, something happened. For the first time, I didn't even mean it to happen. It wasn't a conscious thing, but I had just spent some time looking at myself from myself, right? Like looking at my own judgment and working through that I didn't realize that was all happening on autopilot. So now when I went and sat in that other person's position to look outward from their spot so I could gain this understanding, which is such a great tool, what I ended up doing was looking back at myself and the judgment. And I actually saw what it would be like for that other person to feel my judgment. And I was like, holy smokes, all this is just being imagined in my mind. But I just went on this emotional roller coaster of what I could have possibly made somebody feel had they have seen my reaction just because I didn't understand. I was like, there's an opportunity here. There's a big opportunity here. And that opportunity is to just realize that as we look at others and we're in a place of not understanding, it would be very easy for somebody else to be in that space with you and judging you. But if they came and sat in your shoes and looked at it from your perspective, it would all make sense, right? When you do that for somebody else and you go and sit in their perspective, it all makes sense. But what happens about the thing in the middle, the catalyst that gets us to do all of this, which is that quick judgment? If we notice that that exists, and when that quick judgment comes up, we smile at it and we think about it as an opportunity to know that person more deeply, more intimately, to learn something about ourselves at the same time. So this thing that you don't understand all of a sudden becomes this opportunity to create love in yourself just from your thoughts and gaining acceptance for and from some other thing. And all you did was think it through. If you can manufacture feelings of love from your imagination, well, we all know what law of attraction means, right? I think we all understand, to a certain degree at least, we receive in our life something that matches the vibration of how we feel in our life. If we're sad and depressed, we often get a lot of crap in our life. When we're riding, high and we're in the zone, we often have great things come to us. It's just kind of a match. So if you take time and you think about this and you realize that place of judgment is actually simply a place of opportunity for love, all of a sudden it actually becomes that. So I know that was just kind of a whole run around the block to talk about that. But I think it's really, really important to see that there's an automatic reaction that comes up in each and every one of us now when we start to consider something outside of ourselves. We're very programmed to look at ourselves first, and then we're also programmed when we don't understand to go into a space of judgment. It just seems to be the way the world works right now. This is probably part of the equalization from it being, a complete lack of intimacy to this wide open intimacy. There's going to be some glitches along the way. If we recognize them and see them, and we can do what we can, as humans to circumvent some of these problems, and we can share just a little bit of love with somebody that maybe we don't even know. And sometimes the person doesn't deserve it, because here's what I do know for sure. Quite often, the person who deserves love the least is the one who needs it the most, right? So in those moments of not understanding what the F is going on with somebody, that's the opportunity. That person needs the love, and you've been given an opportunity to feel it for yourself as well. So that person that you don't understand, they're giving you an opportunity to feel love. That's a pretty beautiful thing if you just spin it around the right way, isn't it? All right, my friends, I just wanted to hang out, get high, talk that one out, and talk out, as I see these opportunities and these small little ways that we can just switch around our thinking ever so slightly and use the processes that are already happening and just hijack it and move it a little bit, and we can turn that into a joy opportunity, I'm going to bring it to you every time, right? All right, my friends, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, take care.